prostitution policy is morality politics. It's not just prostitution policy. Actually, all the policies that have to do with bodies and sins, abortion, gambling, alcohol, teenage sexuality, euthanasia, and end-of-life policies, these are all morality politics. And there's not much written in the public policy literature, but what is written is not very clear. There's no clear, you will find in vain, you will look in vain for a definition. So we had to come up with our own definition. And what we did is we didn't say, well, these are the characteristics. We looked at the effects of morality politics on policy making. That's how we defined morality politics. And again, it's not one thing. We see it much more as a continuum. Some policies have very little of it, others are almost completely dominated by morality politics, such as prostitution policy. So what are the effects? First of all, morality politics, and if I say morality politics, you think prostitution policy, is ruled by outspoken ideologies. Very outspoken ideologies. What we see is that those ideologies are often a platform for a larger moral cause. So abolitionism, which is the current feminist platform for prostitution, abolitionism means, or sometimes people call it neo-abolitionism, because there was one in the 19th century, but it means that you want to eradicate prostitution from society. It's in many cases the deeper cause, the larger cause behind it is an hostility towards patriarchal society and all that entails. So ideology is central in morality politics. In fact, and that's why we say it's not morality politics is not a characteristic of particularly of prostitution policy. Every policy can become victim of morality politics. So currently, economic policy has all the characteristics of morality politics. So the way we talk about Greece as a country that has profligate ways, can't rein in its spending, is in very moralistic terms. Listen to German politicians talking about Greece. Austerity politics is talking almost in religious terms. So policy can move in and out of morality politics, but prostitution policy is quite solidly inside usually. Second effect, morality politics is always lay policy. That means that everyone is a self-declared, or thinks herself or himself, a self-declared expert on the policy and has a strong opinion on it. That's not with every policy. If, for example, I have a conversation, let's say, about pension policy, I realize that there's an enormous technical aspect to pension policy that I don't understand, and I gladly defer to an expert here. That's not the case with morality politics. Everyone is an expert, everyone owns the policy. Third characteristic, as I already mentioned with stigma, morality politics is highly emotionally charged. And that leads to a particular type of debate. A debate that we characterize in our books as a dialogue of the deaf. People shouting at each other without listening to each other. Quite literally, because we found descriptions of the negotiations around the Palermo Protocol, the United Nations protocol that regulates trafficking. And if you read how those debates went, it's quite astonishing to read that, how people attacked each other. In fact, I'm saying each other, it's in fact mostly the abolitionists who attacked the people who thought of prostitution as work and wanted to have elements of that in the Palermo Protocol. Very emotionally charged, overriding emotions again, anger, disgust, revulsion, but important here is not so much the emotion, although that is the most obvious thing to observe, but there's a kind of ethics of emotion at work here. Because if you enter a debate with very strong emotion, that is ending the debate, as it were, right on the spot. So a strong emotion is the end point of a discussion. And in fact, a strong emotion legitimizes your point of view, and it also acts as a bridge between thinking and doing, between thought and action. So if prostitution is disgusting, well, there's only one way to go, right? get rid of it. Save those women, they are victims. So that's the kind of ethics, or you could say perverse ethics, that is at work here. The fourth element of morality politics and prostitution politics is that morality politics is resistant to facts. There's a whole political economy of facts at work here, but I'm going to make it very short. You might have heard over the weekend that one of Trump's advisors launched the notion of alternative facts. Prostitution policy is riddled with alternative facts, or in common language, lies. So it is very common in many situations that advocates inflate numbers. I've done research on homelessness and mental illness, and in the United States in the 1980s, and the numbers that floated around were highly, highly inflated until somebody did a serious count and it turned out it was, you know, a tenth of what people thought it was. But with prostitution, it's not just that the numbers are inflated. So the numbers, for example, the FBI puts out an annual report and has for years claimed that there were 4 million victims of trafficking worldwide. And then suddenly, from one year to the other, they lowered the number to 400,000 without even explaining why. So that's the kind of numbers we're talking about. But there's another element which is much more sinister, I think, and that is putting out deliberate lies. So over and over again we see that advocates of, sadly, mostly abolitionism, I haven't seen many other examples, are willing just put out lies. Now, you can say, okay, I mean, in the heat of the battle, that's what happens, but we think that putting out lies, creating alternative facts, is incredibly corrosive for democratic debate. So the fifth effect of morality politics that we discovered is that there is a strong tendency to see policy making as symbolic policy making. So there is a tendency to announce with a lot of fanfare new, better policies, sweeping policies that will solve the problem once and forever. And then you will also see there is no interest at all actually in implementing those policies. The hard work of realizing through the selection of policy instruments, through the creation of policy networks, through getting the support of large groups of actors, of realizing those policies. There's no interest in it. And of creating trust among the actors. That is a whole different kind of work than announcing a policy. So what you see very often in morality politics is that policies change from one day to the other in something completely different. So in most policy domains, like education, or defense policy, or economic policy, or agricultural policy, there's a certain continuity, a certain institutional continuity. The same people, even if there's, changes are announced, in the end the changes aren't that large. In prostitution policy that's not the case. You can literally go from one policy to the opposite almost overnight. So all those things taken together we call morality politics. And you see in our analysis that all these things return in the prostitution policy of the Netherlands, of Austria, and actually of all the other countries that we have in our book.